Hi, so I am going out later and I don't know about you, but you know when you're going out at night and then you've got to nip out somewhere in the day as well, and you're thinking, well, I don't want to put makeup on now to then put it on again later, and if I put my full lot on now, it's not going to be in the same place later, but I still need a bit of coverage. So that's kind of what I'm covering now. Really random, but hopefully it might help some of you because it drives me insane and I've been doing makeup for 25 years. So I've had my hair blown, that's all ready to go, but can you imagine if I popped out for lunch looking like this? It's just a little bit too raw. So how do we do it without having to take your whole face off and start again in a few hours? I'm going to share my tips. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I moisturised earlier on. So I'm going to add a tiny little bit of facial spray just to give me some hydration. Make sure you tuck your hair out the way just so you're not spraying all your hair after you've just paid to have it blown. And I'm just adding a bit of hydration. Whenever you do a spray with anything, make sure it's about 10 centimetres away, just because otherwise it kind of goes in blotches on your face and you want a nice mist. That feels so good, I'm going to put some more on. Okay, so that's going to add hydration into my face. Now, the next thing that I want to do is give myself a little bit of a glow. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the James Read water. It's called Rose Glow Water Mist Face, and it's a self-tan, but I always just put a little bit on if I'm going out. And then I'm just going to leave that to soak in for a few seconds and dry before I start going over with my little bit of makeup. For me, my eyebrows are so important. I hate it when they're not drawn on just because they're unsymmetrical, and to be honest, I have had them tinted, so there's more colour on them than there usually would be, but I have to fill them in before I go out. And my go-to pencil, I'm sure I've shown you before, but I will bang on about it because it's that good. It's the Eyebrow Queen Brow Pro this one's in blonde. So because I'm going to have a very, very natural makeup, I'm going to use this one in blonde. I sometimes go for the one that's called Bronde, B-R-O-N-D-E. I'm just going to add a few pencil strokes because this will just get me through lunchtime, and then I can go over it again when I do my makeup later. Just filling in the sparse areas, not going all the way through your brow because it ends up being really dark and heavy. Okay. Just going to soften that off in the corner by combing it through. Whenever you put too much product on, always just comb it through to soften. I'm going to just put a tiny little bit of coverage on my under eye. Now, if you're a lady of a certain age, you do not want it to sit in your fine lines under your eyes. I get that. You want to have coverage, you want to have that flawless under eye that you had 20 years ago, but we have to be realistic with this. If you do have fine lines and you put makeup on, it is going to sit in it. You can use lightweight textures and you can use the right brush and it will help it look more flawless. However, you have a choice. Do you want to show your bags or do you want to show your makeup? Dark circles and bags or makeup? Because there's no magic solution. So we just got to do our best with this. So the way that I would do it is choosing a creamy concealer. Now, don't forget this look that I'm doing now is just to brush myself up for the daytime. I'm going to go with a really, really fluffy brush. Let me find one. Okay, so I've got my fluffy brush. This is my Sissy brush. You can see how fluffy it is and how soft it is. So when I press that on my hand, it literally moves, okay? That's basically the softness of it. When you get a brush that's soft, it can't add too much product. It's impossible. That's one of the main reasons I designed my range. So another tip, what I'll do is I'm going to give this a little bit of a spray to dampen it down. I'll use my hydrating spray. Just want to dampen it down because when you dampen it down and you use it in your product, it helps it spread even further. Now, this wants to go on so lightly because I'm going to be building onto it tonight. So I don't want too much product now. And then use your finger if you want to take off, if you've put a bit too much on and you want to take some off. But if not, you're just going to buff it in circular motions into your skin. Really lightweight. It's going to bounce a bit of light, give you a bit of coverage, but not cake too much. And that's because you've dampened down this brush. The brush is really soft. It's impossible for me to overload product onto my skin using this brush. Now, you can see that this is enhancing my redness a little bit with this light, but when I come a bit closer, you can't see it as much. Okay, now, because I've got a little bit of redness on my nose and these areas, I'm going to use a little bit of my green corrector. So I can take that section down. Same brush, don't need to change my brush. And I'm just going to paint in this central area of my face where it gets really red. So see, that's kind of given me a bit of an even skin tone now where I could actually go out. So next step I'm going to do is use a tiny bit of bronzer. This is actually my whipped bronzer, which was from my range in Superdrug, but it's no longer going now. It was only limited edition, so I'll have to come out with a new one. But any cream bronzer or whipped bronzer or liquid bronzer or powder bronzer, if you want to, would be my next step. I'm going to take my holy grail of brushes, the Helen brush, because this is brilliant for applying and buffing out product. And I'm going to put the brush into my bronzer. I'm going to take off the excess on the back of my hand. You see, if I'd have gone straight onto my face with that, it'd have been so much product. And I'm going to start to concentrate this just in the contours of my cheek and then just use circular motions to buff it out. And that is then going to be enough coverage for me to be able to step out for lunch, not feeling like I've got a naked, uncovered face, but I'm not going to have to do loads of work to go back over it later and do a full cleanse and everything, just because I'm a little bit lazy like that. I want to just go straight over with my makeup in a bit. So that's going to allow me to do it. I'm going to finish off with a lick of mascara. Again, you won't need to take this off later so long as you don't get clumps in it now. You'll be able to just build up onto it. I'm only talking a few hours. So I'm just going to do a really light layer first. Leave it to dry. And then when I come back to do my glam look later, I'm not going to have to take it off and start again. If it was clumpy, I would have to, but we'll just put that tiny little bit on. And then get your lips all ready for later on with a little bit of lip balm, or I like to use a lip plumper. Just so I've got a little bit of something on for going out in. And there we go. I can pop for lunch now, not looking naked. And I can also just top over this makeup in a little bit. So, yeah, quick couple of minute makeup. Hope you've learned some tips, and I will film building it up. So I'm back from my afternoon out. As you can see, there isn't really any makeup left on, but I did put my tan on, so I don't want to wipe everything off. I am just going to go over the top. I'm going to start with my Prep Mist, just to hydrate everything. So if you have had a day makeup and you go into night makeup, you just want something to hydrate your skin before you start applying more makeup. So this is fantastic. I'm then going to use a concealer, so I'm going to start to shape my face. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'm just going to put it in all the areas where I'd kind of highlight. So under my eyes. You want to, when you do under your eye, do kind of like this nice V shape. I'm then going to go in with the dark. And this is a concealer. And I'm going to start to blend this in. I'm going to use my Gigi brush and I'm just going to start to buff this concealer in. So it's just going to give me some shape in my face. And also quite a lot of coverage, because obviously it's a concealer, isn't it? Do the darker areas first. The Ace brush. This is just going to smooth out all that highlight that I did. Always want to direct this upwards. And then I'm going to use my Trinny London BFF Serum De-Stress. With my Helen brush. And I'm going to go all over the top and basically just blend these two tones in and give myself a really nice sheen over the top. This is quite a full coverage look for me. And you can see that's just blended in really nicely. For my cheeks, I'm going to use my Daniel Sandler Hot Toddy. This is like a liquid, and I want my Gigi brush. I'm just going to tuck this into the cheekbones and go over where I used that darker shade concealer. Don't worry about the edges, because we'll soften over like we did a second ago. Like just patting with your Helen brush. Just going to use what's left on my hand just to contour under my chin, and I literally just push the brush under my chin and let it follow my jawline, and that's going to give me some definition. Could use a little bit around your forehead if you wanted to. And any areas that the sun would hit really, because I haven't got a tan at all at the moment. But let's just pretend when I'm in a darkened room later that I have got a bit of one. When you're going out at night, you can always apply more makeup because it's going to be dark, it's going to be artificial light. You might want to take some selfies, so you kind of need that fuller, more flawless coverage. I'm going to go over my brows with my Eyebrow Queen again. And this time I can press a little bit harder. It's the same colour pencil, but I'm just using more pressure to go from day to night. Soften with your brush at the end by just combing everything through. I've got this gorgeous palette from Iconic, and I'm going to use this really nice pink tone with my Kiki brush just to add a little bit more colour to my cheeks. I'm going to use the same brush and I'm just going to sweep it over my eyes. I'm going to move on to my highlighter shade. Just a really light pressure with that same brush over the highest points. I'm trying to show you that makeup doesn't need to be difficult. Add loads and loads of mascara. Just going to use my Indie brush, which is really tiny, and a little bit of bronzer, and just really lightly shade down my nose. When I say really lightly, put loads on there. Don't worry, fear not, we shall blend it out. If you make the same mistake as me, never panic. It's only makeup, but it comes off. So that's how you contour your nose. And then just blend over it with your brushes, and that will soften everything together. Take away any harsh edges, but still give you that shape that you want. I'm going to give myself a little spritz to set everything. You'll notice I haven't used powder, and that's because I've got quite a full coverage concealer on, and it does dry into a matte texture. So for me, I feel like that's enough. I don't want it to be any drier than that currently is. I'm going to line my lips with a Kiko lip pencil, and this is like a brown tone. It's not usually the kind of tone I'd use, but quite like it for a change, just because I've got this green on, so I feel like the neutral tone will work nicely. If you tape the lip liner all the way into your lip, it will help your lipstick stay on better. And if you want to overdraw your lip line, you can do, just push the pencil out a bit. And then I've got this lovely new nude lipstick from By Terry, and the shade is Sexy Nude. That feels really nice and hydrating. And that is it. So I'll get myself ready. And that is me done.